Welcome to the MindKind Men's Wellbeing podcast with your host, Nick Morris. Before we begin, a small disclaimer. This podcast has been partly funded by Walsall Public Health as a part of their mental health wellbeing grant. We are very grateful for their support, but would like to confirm that they have no editorial input into this podcast or its content. The views, thoughts and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts or opinions of either the MindKind Projects, Walsall Council or Public Health Walsall, or any other affiliated organisations. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only and is not presented as medical advice. If you'd like to support or more information around mental health and well-being, please see the links below. Please reach out. You are not alone.
We were literally just in the men's peer support group here at MindKind, and we were just talking about those little things that I suppose those little habits, those little routines that we do that kind of reduce our stress, reduce the stress bucket. We were sharing a few things. Jamie shared some interesting stuff about musical theatre that we'll definitely get into to talk about. But obviously, I've dragged us upstairs and thought, right, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't get this recorded, so I can put it on social media and exploit you all. So that's why I'm here. So Tim, you were talking downstairs about the things that you do when you know you're feeling that stress kind of rise.
Yeah, so I like singing, and in the past, you know, when I've had a difficult situation, then my treat for the week was to go to karaoke. I'm now in a in a choir, so I go to choir every week, and that's just a treat for me really to go and sing, and then we go and do concerts, and it's a good feeling to join together with a group of other men and sing together. It's great.
That's just all camaraderie all together.
Just singing songs that you enjoy and stuff like that.
So I've got two questions that I have to ask. One, what was your go-to karaoke?
It used to be Born to Be Wild.
Okay, and if you could just spend the next 6 or 7 minutes. No. Right, so what is it you think about singing that kind of improves your well-being?
It's hard to say, but I guess your thought is on what you're singing, and usually you sing stuff that you really enjoy, so you're kind of like just getting really into that, and it takes your mind off anything that's bothering you, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. Jamie, who's off camera at the moment, but mic'd up, you said something quite similar.
Yeah, I was that's theatre. I love my theatre. So a lot of the time when I'm overly stressed and the house is empty, I'll just get my speaker out and I'll put on my theatre playlist. At the moment, a lot of Hamilton, which is fantastic, and I will just end up singing, probably not to the best degree, but the best I can, singing Hamilton and other theatres, and that's sort of like a stress relief for me. It burns off the negative energy.
What is it about that singing that you think?
I mean, it's getting stuff done. Like I'm cleaning, I'm doing the washing up, I'm doing all this stuff I really hate to do, and it's really hard for me to start doing because of ADHD. It's just annoying things to do. But as soon as the music's there, the passion of the music, and then me singing like an idiot, comes together as a good energy release, so that it adds a positivity to the negative things that I don't want to do.
There's a book which is super famous, Atomic Habits by, I'm going to say James Clear, but something like that. And he talks about like habit stacking. So basically you do, when you do something regular, you have to do it, you stack another habit with it, so you almost ride that wave. And for you, it sounds like you've kind of done that. You're cleaning, you're singing, you're flowing, you're doing it. So you've kind of habit stacked. So something that maybe you'd have to do is become something that's quite joyous, and
it makes it fun, and it makes it. I think you feel free doing that, don't you, Jamie?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you gotta make, if you got negative things in your life that you have to do, like washing up, cleaning, looking after yourself, even you gotta add that positivity on top of yourself.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what my like go-to song. I listen to like depressing stuff like Nick Cave and stuff like that. I don't know how good that would be, but yeah, I think I definitely, there's times where I for me, nostalgia. It's the songs that I used to listen to as a kid. I'll cook, but I'll like blast songs that like Blink 182 or like I was into metal still kind of, but songs that I used to be really into as a kid, and it just kind of taps in. There's that self-care of cooking, the nostalgia of the music. I know every single word. I don't really care because I'm singing. So yeah, I'm definitely, yeah, it's definitely
Good memories come back as well, isn't it? Stuff that you were doing at the time.
good and dodgy memories of being a 15-year-old with bright pink punk spikes and thinking true story.
Brings back my emo phase. Get the Black Parade on Paramore. Get the angst. Bring back the teenage angst to just get it all out once over.
Yeah. And as an adult, like tapping into that teenage angst, and yeah, definitely. So Jason's sitting there in the corner, looking very stoic, and so obviously you mentioned, and we've spoken before about your. Well, in fact, tell us what do you do for your well-being?
I write
as
much as possible.
Yeah.
I predominantly, because I know Tim asked me this question earlier, I predominantly try and write with 3 separate folders.
Yeah.
One of which is just essentially free writing. So I don't look at the screen. I'm just simply typing, just get words out. And how I feel, how I think, and how I think those 2 things can conflict or help each other or make a bad thing worse. And again, I know I was asked this question earlier, that if I were to look at that piece of writing independently and as if somebody had produced it to me, my first thought would be, okay, this person is a team of psychologists, a rubber room, and certainly the white guys with the net and the coat, they need to come talk to this person.
Okay, so it's just absolutely
Horrific.
unfiltered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's really good. You're just letting it out, getting it out on paper, but actually coming back to it, revisiting it, and reading it through. You probably see things a lot differently, and maybe see things a bit clearer as well. What do you think?
Yes and no. It just seems to lead to much deeper exploration of the ideas that have popped up as I've been writing, because I want to recognize and see where these things are actually coming from. So
it's a route of like self-understanding almost of
pretty much
what tapping into something that I'm not going to say, but potentially is a bit more beyond the layer, maybe subconscious. You're tapping into something.
Yeah.
It's a journey, isn't it? And as you go to each part of that journey, I guess maybe it does feel a bit more intense, but it is an exploration. You're just going out on a I don't know.
It's
exploring and then seeing what you find when you get to each place, and that's not always going to be stuff that you always want to see. When we just go exploring around the coast or something, we come to some place and like, this is a load of rubbish, and other times you're just like absolutely wowed by what you find.
So, but any sense of self-exploration is like, it kind of should be scary, because there's a part of you that's kind of hidden away. And it needs to be done in the right way. Psychiatrists, psychologists, counselling, mental well-being organizer, whatever it is. The things that it sounds like that you're tapping into in writing are things that are there anyway. That they exist within you. When you tap into them and when you write, and you said that, some of it can be dark. How do you feel when do you feel more comforted knowing that you've been able to bring them to the surface?
No, not at all. It bothers me greatly.
It bothers you greatly.
Yeah.
So it's not empowering that you brought it to the surface. It's, whoa, what do I do with this now?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you do with this now?
That's the bit where I'm stuck on.
Yeah.
To be quite frank about it.
Does it feel a bit like sometimes, when you open up something from a box, a tent,
Pandora's box.
You can never get it back in into the bag as it was before.
Mm.
So you kind of like feels a bit uncomfortable, really.
Yeah, certainly uncomfortable. Certainly uncomfortable. But that being said, with the other two files that I write with, I try and write as much funny stuff that occurs to me, or if I see something in the news, or just a concept, a notion, an idea that suddenly pops in my head, something that can be either overly exaggerated to make it funny, or I don't know. It's a very strange thing, because what I have found is, and again, with the three files, it's okay. One's over here, which is predominantly some of the darker stuff and some of the more self exploration kind of idea, concept, notion, whatever the hell that leads into. And then there's the funny stuff over here, and then there's just the various, I don't know, just silly observations. I mean, it's something that might be a little bit raw, because it only happened, I think it was actually earlier today, was when the ship just suddenly crashed into the Baltimore Bridge and the thing collapsed. I mean, I can see why the guy running the ship was struggling, because I mean, that bridge has only been open since 1977. It's very easy to not see it. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's only like a mile or so wide, and
It's easy to just fall upon him.
well, things, it was nighttime as well, so all the lights may have misconstrued. I mean, this, bridge-shaped shadow with all the lights on it, just
What could that be?
just didn't see it.
So that
I believe he actually lost power, which might have meant he lost a lot of control over how he steered his ship. But yeah,
I'm glad that you're here to be the voice of reason. So that first file is those observations,
Yeah.
those quick, those jotting down, yeah.
Yeah.
And is that predominantly for your stand-up comedy? Because obviously you're a stand-up
This is the strange thing, is that there's common threads
yeah,
throughout the three, and usually what I find out is, yes, there's something dark over here, but that kind of has the same tone or flavor
yeah,
as something that I was writing over here that was funny.
yeah,
And then there's the observation over here. So it's almost a case of, for somehow the dark bits, there's a punchline there. There's the setup over here, and there's the meat of the meal there in the funny stuff. So then it's just a case of, okay, I've got to try and rework that to make that a little bit more palatable. So try and use different language and different ways of explaining that, probably a nicer way, a more silky way of explaining it, so it doesn't come off over as quite as abrasive as it was when I wrote it initially. And then reworking that, and then it's like, oh wait, that does go together. Oh, that's right. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's still a bit clunky though. I've got to correct the language on that. Okay, what can I do there? Oh, I could change that bit. Oh wait, I've changed that bit. Well, that's changed that bit now.
it's like a jigsaw that comes from. There's a subconscious element that taps into something that's probably quite subconscious and fundamental within you, and then you link that into things that are happening now. Try and find the funny in it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if you zoom out on that whole process, just to be Mr. Positivity, is you said that you take something that really feels unpalatable and dark and scares you from within. There's some subconscious dark elements from within. But then what you're doing there through that process, it sounds like, is you're turning it into something that actually, one, is funny and palatable to a lot of people. Still very dark. I know your humor's very dark. But two, you've turned your darkness into an art form. And I know art form sounds very, and I know you've been what's the word, that you probably wouldn't say it's an art, but you were turning something that is dark and almost making it into something that you are. There's gold in there. There's value. There's art. That sounds like what that process. What would you think to that? Because I'm sure you challenge me on that.
Trying to work out the best way I can answer that.
is there any kind of therapeutic?
There's something that can possibly be said, oh, that's dark, you shouldn't do that. But in the same breath, it also makes that person happier.
Yeah.
For example, I mean, for example, I may have mentioned this somewhere else, but it might be more interesting here. My aunt has osteogenesis imperfecta, which is just a cute way of saying brittle bone disease. So she's predominantly in a wheelchair. She can't really do anything external of that. And whereas, people are showing the kindness, the love, the tender, and the, are you okay? Are you okay? Which I do. I don't, I'm not a complete evil sod. Well, at least not just yet. But in the same breath, it just makes her the perfect person to mess with. But in a way that I know that it makes her feel a little bit more
like everyone else.
Yeah,
because she's
yeah.
messed with.
I mean, she was in the hospital a couple of years ago, because I know she couldn't go anywhere. It was my mother and myself doggy sitting for her while the thing was there. And when we would go down to visit her, on one occasion, I got a bag of flour and put it in like a freezer bag. And I waited specifically for the doctors to come round and just see how she is. At which point I pulled out this white powder and said, look, we've been through the house now. Where do you want me to put the cocaine? And
What did she say to that?
Well, the doctor was like that far away from really like, what the hell are you doing? You can't bring that in here. And then my aunt was just too busy laughing to really explain anything to the doctor. And my mum was like, kind of, Jazz, you shouldn't, no, you shouldn't, no, you shouldn't do that. And of course, the more I hear that, the more I'm going, yeah, I probably should do that more.
Jay, sometimes is that you feel that you're probably the only person who goes through some of these dark things, and actually you finding a way of being able to share it that gives it a chance to be aired and other people to go, yeah, it's a bit like that for me as well. Just gives them the chance to explore and think, I'm not the only one either.
Now, see, that's the thing that I do find remarkably interesting about that stuff. Because it's almost a case of, and somebody far more intelligent than me probably said it decades ago, so I'm probably going to completely butcher what somebody else has said here. But it's just that by going in quite deeply into myself, it's almost a case of, okay, the more I'm getting to know me, the more I'm getting to know other people as well, because there are similarities and there are traits that people kind of share throughout. And again, that bit, I find it remarkably interesting to me, because you can have vastly different people, but some of the thought processes, the feelings, and some of the shading, I suppose, in their lives, they're actually really quite the same. Yet they are completely different people who've lived completely different lives, have completely different outlooks. And yet there is this common thread throughout. And that I find deeply interesting.
I think it's just really good that you're getting these things out there that nobody wants to talk about. Everybody has a bit of a laugh about it. But now actually it's okay to talk about it. And I think that's amazing, Jay. I really do.
But I think what you said about those common threads amongst people, we all might have a different, your viewpoint is clearly different to many other people. You look at things, dark, lots of dark humor. And what's the phrase that you describe yourself as now?
Cynical optimist.
Cynical optimist.
Which to me is an oxymoron, but there we go.
Yeah, but and that's, your viewpoint and looking at the world, and we all have different viewpoints, and that's influenced by many things. But ultimately, like you were saying, like our route to what well-being or what feeling good or what feeling okay, our route might be different, but it's very similar for a lot of people. Like, we want to feel like we're contributing to the world. We want to feel like we're part of something bigger. We want to feel safe. We want to feel secure, Maslow's hierarchy, all that kind of stuff. And just the fact that you take, like I say, something that may initially feel fundamentally dark, And then like that situation that you were talking about with your auntie, that it'd be very easy to look at all of that through a lens of darkness, but then actually finding the humor in these situations and finding the light, because that's ultimately what life is. Yeah, like life is, it's going to be really hard and it's going to be really challenging, and there's also going to be times where it's hilarious and wonderful and ironic in a way that it's just the blackest of humor sometimes. And I just think that you being able to find the humor in some of that darkness is one, obviously serving you somehow. It's giving you purpose, but I think it can ultimately serve many other people. I think if people can see you laughing and joking about some of the things that you're going through, think, well, I'm not like you said, I'm not the only person that is going through this, and God, Jace can laugh about it, and he can make these really dark jokes that are undeniably funny. I just think that there's something really empowering to that, and I think that's amazing.
Thank you for listening to the MindKind Men's Wellbeing Podcast. I hope to see you next time.